Chris, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hey, Ken, how are you?
Chris, I'm living the dream. What's going on with you today?
Yeah, I was recently laid off from my dream job in the sports media industry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is that job where you put the years of side work in to kind of get the industry experience and attain that job.
Yep.
You know, it was kind of a little bit of a niche role. So now I currently find myself at a crossroads of how do you bounce back from losing the dream job and identify that next opportunity or dream?
Yeah. That's a great question. Well, we can do it. It's doable. So let's start there. What was the role? Can you describe that niche role?
Yeah, it was managed a content team in a newsroom environment where we're reacting to games and breaking news and putting together, long-term planning for sports content with historical context and data analysis. In the end, we were kind of storytellers looking for ways to differentiate our content from our competition. So I kind of led a team on that. And helped grow and develop the team members on that to make sure that we were always trying to stay ahead and making sure that we were the best in the industry. It was just a great opportunity. It was a great role. Loved every minute of it, and it's just one of those things you're just trying to figure out how can this transition into other roles.
Well, what happened? Was it just was this a national organization, regional, local? What are we talking about?
It was a national organization, and it was a company-wide, layoff. I was one of many, unfortunately, and it's it's just a.
Is it so? If it's national, it's a reputable organization. So that's got some shine to it.
Yeah, most definitely.
And you're not the only one. This was a COVID casualty or some type of mismanagement, however you want to call it. It's really not a blight on your resume. You were swept up in the big release.
Oh yeah, it was very much COVID dependent. I mean, you just look at the sports industry. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
They're very fortunate to get the games played that they have this year, and it's been a challenge all year. And I was impressed with the way, in general, the company handled it overall.
Okay, good. So, what's your read on the future in the actual industry as it relates to the type of work you were doing once we see the COVID thaw begin to happen this year and beyond?
I think it's going to bounce back in time. It's all a matter of how long that time will be. And the way I kind of look at it is it's a little bit location dependent. And that one of the weaknesses I had is that I was one of the few remote managers in my department. I was in a remote office, and they had a preference for having the people in the home office.
All right, so what do we learn? So what do we learn from that? What's our reality going forward? We have to get real practical, and this is one of those practical steps. Is that something where you're limited because you're going, I've got to live in Fort Mill, South Carolina, I'm not moving anywhere else?
It's a little bit. I mean, I'm not. You never say never, but it's not my first choice. I got to have my dream job for 9 years. And it's a matter of there are other elements, I think, that come into play with decisions like this, example, with families and whatnot, as we get in things of that nature that I think play a little bit of role in it, which is why I feel like, to a degree, that I more than likely will need to move into something outside of the sports industry. You never rule it out. You always are hopeful.
Why? Why do you assume that?
Just because they don't have the opportunities in the local market that I'm in on the scale of this.
Right, but I'm wondering, is the remote possibility? Are there other organizations right now that are growing and in a much better situation than the organization that you got laid off from?
I think everybody's impacted in a very similar fashion. And I know that the role that I particularly had, I'm not aware of any of our competitors that had many people in these capacities. I mean,
what would you call it? Is it like a content producer or is it an editor? I mean, what was the actual title?
The title was content manager, but it's not in the traditional, I think in the traditional, nowadays the content manager title has a very marketing centric.
All right. So what made it the dream job? What about that job made it the dream? Think about the task, the role you were playing. That's what I'm looking for here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm a big sports fan. I got to have that impact on the content day in and day out. And I think in the end, it was about what I liked most about the job. And, as things came on, I mean, I got to develop a lot of great content. I got to do a lot of data analysis. I've got a very analytical mindset. I got a storytelling mindset. But the biggest thing I enjoyed was growing and developing the people. That was the big part of my role, especially in the last couple of years, where I really felt like I had a great impact giving people their start in this industry, planting, I enjoyed the most was kind of planting the seeds of an idea or a concept that we could bring to life and watching them take it in ways that I didn't even think were possible, taking it to that next step and making it blossom even more.
So you have to capture that answer right there. You have to remind yourself of that answer that you just gave me and our audience got to hear every day. Because the single greatest factor that made that job a dream job really was not sports related, and that should encourage your heart. That's good news. Now, what I mean by that is, do you keep your eyes open and your ears open, head on a swivel looking for that type of job in the sports world? Yes. But since you're saying that there's not a lot of those content manager positions available, what other positions are available in the sports world that would A, allow you to remote work, and B, lead a team? And that may be pretty slim as well. So then we go, wait a second, got to remind myself, yes, I love sports, but what I love most about the job was leading a team. You really described Leadership 101. It was a beautiful description. And so you could do that in Fort Mill, South Carolina, in a lot of industries. So your sweet spot is not necessarily leadership in sports. It's leading. And so you could, as I say many times on the show, I hope you've heard me say it, Chris, that when you're in your sweet spot, there are multiple jobs, multiple dream jobs, multiple career paths. And so you being in leadership, in content, in sports is certainly a dream job. But I would also tell you that based on what you told me, you leading and developing a team and pouring into them and leading them towards a shared goal. Well, you can do that in a lot of different industries. Are you tracking with me?
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's a lot of the mindset that I've been trying to wrap my head around in terms of exactly what does that look like. I'm still trying to formulate, but
no. Don't overthink it. Well, don't overthink it. Go, like, here's your exercise. Here's the homework exercise after we finish this call. You ready? Here's what I want you to do.
Yep.
I want you to write down all the specific tasks and roles in that leadership role that you had, that you played during the day, and what gave you the most juice and what you loved about it. And I want you to do it. It's almost like write out your job description. Write it out for yourself and look at it and go, this is what I was responsible for. And think of the people stuff, not the sports related stuff. Because at the end of the day, when you write that down, you're going to look at that and you're going to go, that's all I got to look for in the marketplace. I'm looking online going, where are those roles? And then you've got this really impressive resume with a very well-known national sports brand where you were a leader. And so there are content positions all over the place where you enjoy the content. And maybe for a marketing company, we come in and lead a team. All that writing experience and content development, that is very transferable in non-sports companies. And you have to understand that. And then you got to believe that, where it becomes a conviction that you've got a lot to offer, and that's what you go after. And I think you still look for the sports things, but I think because you're somewhat limited, then I would start looking in the area. But I'm going to give you one other thought. I think you need to check out what Clay Travis is doing here in our area. Guy's one of my neighbors, and outkick the coverage. I think this guy, I think he's doing some, whether you agree with him or like him or not, he's doing some really smart things in carving out this independent sports media company. And I would look into stuff like that because they're driving a lot of content. Barstool Sports, who's driving content. I don't know who you work for. I think I have a guess. I'm not going to say it because you didn't forward it. But Chris, you just got to understand what you did is extremely valuable and extremely transferable, whether it's sports or not. But at the end of the day, the single driving factor that how do I find another dream job? Find a great place with a great culture that will allow you to lead and develop a team, because that is the definition of your dream job.